Do dishes after the call. I want to drink this. Voila, food is made. This is my second time cooking this week, and I've yet to have the men department swing by. You got 10 minutes to go?
What's the password? No, it comes when you when you set up the meeting. It comes with the meeting ID and then the password. Found it. Let's see, you gotta let people in the room. Yes, I just figured out how to get onto my computer.
Yes.
Much better. Hi, Ray. I see Alex on there. Your text was way late. Are you really on? Yeah, everybody's gonna definitely have to be on mute when not talking. Let's see. Hi guys. Well, how you do it? Oh, I get that.
Hello.
Hey, Codes. Are you doing the spark plugs?
No, I got those. But the coolant pipe broke.
Oh.
Oh. Not saying I did it. Didn't do it. Someone else did it. So I'm fixing that.
Ooh, did your silver take? Ooh. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it fits. I see you. We have Ray over here with his luxurious locks. I'm waiting for you to start braiding it. It works. Mine's over here looking like a rat's nest, though. Got my sipping tea drink ready. The starving what screen? Ah, where'd Alex go? Is Carrie joining us? About time you got it together, Alex. There he is. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, you're only allowed 4 at a table.
Hi, I'm Ash. I am Mr. Twin Cities Leather 2020, also known as Dragon Pup.
Yeah, you're only allowed 4 at a table.
Hi, I'm Cody, Whiskey, the North Star 2019 puppy. That's what I got for you.
Hi, I'm Alex, aka Pup Dingo. I've been on the board for both TCPP and NSKC, and was asked by our host to be a part of this conversation and be one of the judges this year.
Hi, I'm Carrie. I'm a guy that knows a few things. I have no fancy titles anymore.
Hi, I'm Ray. I am your 2019 Minnesota Leather Boy, now 2020, and I am also the president of Twin Cities T-Rex, which is a leather social group dedicated to trans masculine individuals.
Alex, I know I had to dial in. I know I had to dial in through the internet versus whatever the other option was to make sure that I had internet or audio through Zoom.
Yeah, I just can't hear you from the YouTube. Yeah. Um, Other people are saying they can't hear you either. They hear everybody else except you.
everybody can hear me, I am cool to do it. All right. Okay, question real quick. Okay. Do we want to kill the call again? Doesn't people do the thing? Oh, do we want to just kill the call so people can try again? Sort of. Kill the call so people can try again. So Alex says, what have you guys all been up to during 2020? Alex says, what have you guys all been up to during
So 2020, the year of quarantine. I guess trying to stay sane for most part, while keeping your head together and everything, and then doing what I can in the community to help serve as advocate, serve social justice, and fight for the things that are right. Doing what I can in the community to help serve as advocate, serve social justice, that are right.
All right, my thing glitched out super hard. What did you say? Yeah, car stuff, house stuff, putzing along. Nothing super exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
Work, eat, sleep, lots of Prime Video and Netflix, and really nothing else. And keeping it low key.
Much the same. Projects and things like that. We were able to do a little bit of social distancing things during Pride for Minnesota Leather Pride, and we organized a social distancing flag picture, but not a lot. Don't leave out Ray.
Uh, 2020 has been full of like quarantine things, staying home, wearing a mask when I go anywhere out in public. Just been full of social justice things. I've been protesting. I've been, listening. I've been learning, and I have also recently become a cat dad to 3 of these. So
Remember, we still can't hear you in the YouTube.
Um, Essentially, how can you help the Minneapolis communities and those who are stuck at home during COVID? You know,
I'm not sure if I heard the question. Gotcha. So the people who are hurting most with COVID right now that I see are those that have, that are homeless, that are out of jobs, that don't have housing, whether it's because they have been evicted from their homes, had trouble, having one to start with, and all the issues with keeping housing right now due to COVID, and workability and everything like that is definitely what I see a most difficult, and also just mental health um, with everybody right now. Ways that we can help at home and stuff. If you see your community members out there doing things and stuff like that, and if you have the extra funds or times, you would offer, your help by running supplies or something, donating when asked for that, and you find a person that's credible and stuff like that that you trust is doing things, the most definitely, donate to them and let them help out. And also just something you can do for your friends and your family members and community is, reaching out here and there, just sending a message that said, "Hi, I thought about you. Hope you're doing well," sending you some energies. Those go a long way. You might not get a response back, and that's okay because not everybody has that in them to do. But sending out, just an extra hi or something does help a whole lot.
just going to translate it real quick. Just having the in person is not the same as the online, but the online still makes a difference. So just saying hi or hello quickly can go a long way.
Um, Really, I think everything's been said. Um, y- uh, definitely reach out to not just your close friends, but the friends you may not talk to very often. Just being able to say hello on occasion does make a huge difference.
The people that are most at risk right now are the people who are homeless, the people who are facing evictions, and our lower income people. Like pretty much everybody is at risk, honestly. And I think the best thing for people to do right now is to be responsible and stay home as much as possible and wear a mask when going out. And if you see somebody without a mask, perhaps if you happen to have an extra one, maybe offer it to them and ask them if they would wear it.
I mean, I certainly think the economics and homeless and potentially eviction and now the drop in the unemployment. I mean, those are broad systemic issues that unfortunately, other than small individual donations and things like that, we can't do a lot as a community or have a lot of um, long-term impact other than immediate, helping someone out. But I think the undercurrent about the mental health is the biggest issue because as this continues to drag on, um, even those that we look to in the community thinking as pillars or stronger, I mean, it's just starting to wear on all of us. I noticed the difference. Um, for me, I've noticed the difference that early on during all of this, we were doing a lot of Zooms. People were at the very least driving by and waving, and you can stay in your car and actually just physically see a person and talk from a distance with a mask. And I've noticed that a lot of those things have trailed off as we are entering the fourth or fifth month of this, and I wonder if those things need to restart because there's something about just physically seeing another human that helps us mentally so much, and I do believe that you can do that from a strong, safe social distance while wearing masks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that's one of the reasons why it was, balance. It's a real balancing act for having a contest because bringing people together is really important, and a lot of people need that right now. Um, and it's gonna be interesting having this. Can't I, and balancing the public health too. But yeah, given reasonable precautions and making sure that everyone follows them, it's like Fauci has said multiple times, this had been done with. Everyone stayed put for 2 weeks and wore a dang mask. All right. Cody.
Sweet. Also, real quick, translating your blurb, the trouble with balancing having a contest with COVID and wanting to have people come together and public health and all of the things. So trying to figure that out and make things work. For me, I worry. I've got parents who are up there in age, and so I see kind of the different people who it hits, and that's hitting those of us in our age range more so. So I just am kind of a little lost. Hang out at my house a lot. Don't really go anywhere. Like Carrie said, we used to go over, hang out for a little bit, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna stay in my house and be by myself. It's not the greatest.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I will agree with you there. And how about you, Ray?
I've been working a lot, and my work takes me into a lot of public places, so I am extra mindful of my responsibility to myself and others. And I also pretty much just stay home, um, eat, and if I go somewhere, always taking the proper precautions. And like today, I was planning on going to the raceway because, like, something to do, and it's outside, so it should be socially distant. And then they sent out a post saying that, oh, we're an outdoor venue, so you don't have to wear a mask. And I'm like, well, there goes that. So, it's just give and take and making wise decisions.
Mhm. I'd agree with you there. I wish common sense were more prevalent during pandemics, but you got a lot of conflicting information, and doesn't help that a lot of official or supposed to be official places don't send the same message, not even slightly. Because what was it when this began? It was don't worry about it, then don't wear a mask, and it was oh just so back and forth, and a lot of that had to do with just the White House and how they wanted to keep it quiet, basically. So, kind of wish that we were in New Zealand right now. They're doing pretty good. All right. So let's move on to our next topic. Um, and this is going to be touching on the recent Black Lives Matters movements and stuff, and it's painfully clear to see that traditional policing practices are rife with corruption and serve to terrorize a community rather than help it. So, in your opinion, what are some crucial changes that are needed moving forward to stop this?
So we're getting everyone's opinion on the recent Black Lives Matter protesting. What am I missing?
Police reform.
Police
Basically.
reform, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's start with you, Ash. Yeah.
And Alec, we can hear you on the YouTube
Oh,
now too.
oh, okay. I was tinkering around with it, and I was wondering if that worked. And I was waiting for somebody to, say something. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So to the question, the protests and the marches and the Black Lives Matter movement, and the things that happen. In my life, looking from a BIPOC standpoint, this is something that was going to happen. It's just the matter of time of when. So the top has popped. What happens now? We continue educating and continue spreading the education about what is going on, the things that are not being said and needs to be said, the fights that we need to bring up about rules, regulations, legislations, and just ways of the world that do not see me as an equal. When I matter and work just as hard as anybody else. These are the things that are going on. Whereas a person of color, I am looked at to be as less than my opposite counterpart, which is those that have less melanin. And that's something that's not okay. So, to continue to fight, to continue to get justice for people who have lost their lives, like Tony McDade and Breonna Taylor, and all the people who have fallen at the hands of people who are supposed to protect us, who are told to that are supposed to protect us, and actually looking at the systems that we have right now and noticing the unbalance of it and doing something about it. Justice for people who have lost their lives.
Oh, I forgot to unmute myself there a second. But yeah, Because one thing I'm definitely honestly worried about is that, people in this country a lot um, like to ignore things that make them uncomfortable or that aren't directly in front of them and in their intention. So I am 100% worried that once the uh, elections come and they hopefully get Trump out of there, that people are just going to go, oh, thankfully, now we can go back to how it was in 2015, which wasn't any better, really, on this. And it's not, and, the practices and the mentality that Trump has pushed forward is not going to go away, even though people are really going to want to try and forget it and pretend like it's not happening. So that's just one thing I'm worried about. And just one thing that I'll be very conscious about is, will this movement be seen as needed by people who have a voice, but it doesn't affect? How about you, Alex?
Um, you know, mentioning the elections coming up, um, I the concept and the idea of change is great. It only works when the people that we entrust with being able to make those decisions are also uh, are are doing and doing it um, at a fairly reasonable clip where progress is seen. Like not at the local higher up of political power. Um, there's not enough being there sometimes. We keep putting the same people back in office, which is continuously troublesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I can. That's another thing that it's just, you know, it's just awareness and, again, just not ignoring when it's convenient.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what are your thoughts on this, Carrie?
I mean, I have a different, not perspective, but a different vantage point in terms of being a person of color who's been in this community and the same streets that we were marching on 20 years ago, I was marching on as an indigenous person, and no one paid attention to us. I think the difference now and the systemic change that has occurred is that the militarization of the police force is now affecting all people, certain people the most. Now suddenly, well, people don't get away, but everyone is now starting to get nervous when someone has a gun and has a authoritative attitude that they think they can get away with anything. Big difference. 20 years ago, it was mostly, in my case, indigenous people marching on Franklin, and then you look at the protests that occurred, and it was people of all colors. And as much as we know as BIPOC people these things affect us the most, unfortunately, we do need all people to make systemic change and for them to understand that this affects all of us. So I think that's a difference that I've seen. Uh, I think the other thing is that we are starting to realize that yes, voting and things like that are important. I've seen people who never cared about politics um, becoming engaged. I've been using a personal example. My brother is 50 years old, is a veteran. Um, and has never voted because nothing really ever affected him. Um, And now all of a sudden he's seen all of this going on in the country and he's so angry. And he's angry that he wasn't engaged for the last 30 years. He kind of feels like this happened on his watch because he wasn't engaged. And now suddenly he is. And I think there's a lot of people like that out there, um, because people are starting to see everyone as human, and that this non-equity, it's not working. And so I think there's going to be a lot of change, both politically and hopefully in our communities. I was also going to add, Alex, I think it's very interesting, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Um, because we're all people of color here, I want to hear what my colleagues have to say a little bit more sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean to be disrespectful about that, but it just kind of struck me as I'm looking at this big screen of all of our faces out in front of me here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm actually pretty terrible at keeping a conversation going, which I'm sure everyone here has picked up on just a little bit. So I'm just like, trying to work this out. But yes, please, like anyone, if they want to like jump in, please do it, because I'm not very good at this. I've just been kind of going down the line. So, who wants to add on to that? Oh yeah, sorry, I'm actually pretty terrible at keeping a conversation going.
Nobody else? Well, I think that's definitely a unfortunate thing. I guess in seeing that these things have continued to go on, and it's to the point where it has to matter in your life. Even if you have that one friend, that is a person of color or whatever, and you might see the things going on, it doesn't affect you enough that you want to open up your mouth, to help out another human being. Um, and it's something that we all have to, start learning. We need more empathy for other people, and not just ourselves and what's going on, because when we help other people help us or are able to help us. Um, I've walked this earth for 36 years, and it takes a long time to find that community that helps and supports you. Yes, but, it's definitely something you have to continue to do, to work towards the, opening your mouth for those that can't say something, or are too scared or won't say anything. I take that upon myself to do something like that, um, because when I need that to happen, I want somebody to willingly do that, not because they feel like they need to or anything, but because it's the right thing to do. If that makes sense.
I'll jump in here quick. Speaking from an indigenous perspective, I grew up mostly on a reservation in northern Michigan, and in between a very white, affluent part of the Fox cities in Wisconsin. So bouncing in between the two, I got worldview from both perspectives. So I've been used to having to deal with the issues as an indigenous person, having our women kidnapped and murdered. I have a sister that was kidnapped, raped, and murdered, and left for dead on the train tracks. Um, I have a cousin who is currently missing. We have no idea where she is. She's been missing for a couple years now. So when I moved out of Wisconsin and here to Minneapolis, this is the biggest city that I've ever lived in. And this was like my first experience with more people of color other than just Indian and like white people. So that was very eye opening. And I think when Philando was killed 4 years ago. That was the first protest that I ever attended in response to police brutality and the killing of somebody who's black. And I've attended several marches and things since then, Standing Rock and stuff like that. So most of my protests and things have been from the indigenous perspective. But when George Floyd was murdered and I attended those protests and I, gave my time and my energy, that's when like I feel like my eyes were really opened up to that there's a problem with everything. The entire system from the ground up is corrupt and it's stacked against people of color, against BIPOC people. And it has been since the Constitution was written. And it's very maddening and infuriating to try and change things when it's written right into the fabric of this country that if you are a BIPOC individual, you do not matter. Like your hopes, your dreams come second to somebody who is white. And that's something that I've learned from the George Floyd from like this George Floyd thing. It was like, I remember I was sitting on the couch at my friend's house watching our city burn. And that's when it woke something. So that's, so now that I'm fighting for something beyond what I want.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to when it's more so when it's yourself being the one who's the target, but then when you see everybody else, your friends, your family, I feel like you can't help but go out and try and protect the best way that you know how. But yeah,
That's why I found it so infuriating and disingenuous to see some of these conservative commentators say, well, standby people that were standby during the George situation should have stepped up. Well, and I was just struck by the fact that the privilege that you could say that as a Caucasian person, because the narrative would have changed so much that if the other people of color who were watching would have resisted, etc. I mean, there would have been many more lives lost. I mean, we've seen in video clips of when we do stand up to an obvious atrocity, when we do stand up to something obviously illegally being done, we get vilified. And so the privilege of a Caucasian lawyer or commentator or someone to kind of think that we can stop something that's illegal. We're not even in that position. We're not allowed to be in that position.
Yeah, the tack on to that, when they say, things like, if you just comply, if you just, do what they say and things like that, when they can't see from our viewpoint, we're taught at very young ages to act certain ways around police, to act certain ways around certain relatives that we have, if they are different melanated from us. In different areas, we are taught to act these certain ways because we are looked at as aggressive. We are looked at as violent. If we stand our ground, if we stand up for ourselves and our bodies, and this is everywhere, healthcare systems, education, our history is not taught because it is violent. And that just says so much. I mean, it's too violent for you to teach everybody about and we bring it and write and stuff like that because of the things that our ancestors, heck, our grandparents, for some of us, um, and parents have gone through.
So I'm just gonna add a few things. Because from where I grew up is a Catholic school. There was it was all white, not a single person of color, none of that. So when I was taught, it was a very whitewashed, watered down version, pretty much. So it's just I hate that to my very core when somebody, you know, just says, just comply, you'll be fine. So let's move on to our next topic. Well, really our last topic of the day. Minneapolis has been called a leader in diversity and representation. What are your thoughts on this?
I think a lot of shit happens here, unfortunately, and we have pockets of people who are willing to stand up for the injustice of those things. So I think, that's what makes us what the media decides to claim. Because you can look at Portland or Chicago, and they have other similar little things as well. But I think for sure we are definitely a progressive state, and it's good. So.
And I'll admit I have a angry and radical perspective on this. If we're diverse, we are diverse in only so much as we as BIPOC people fit the role and the model that they would like us to fit into so that they can say we are diverse. And by that I mean government, institutions, business, etc. Today in the Star Tribune, they ran an article about the top 50 CEOs in the state of Minnesota. 50 CEOs. 2 are people of color. Of those corporations in Minnesota, only 4 had reached 50% women and BIPOC people on their board of directors. So the way money flows in this community, that's not diversity. When you look at our elected officials, though we've here in Minneapolis specifically, and in St. Paul with a BIPOC mayor, it's changed recently, but those small steps, when you look at cities of our size around the country who have been much more diverse, it always just cracks me up. And I think part of that is the liberal progressive feel-goodness of our state. They don't really want to address the uncomfortable issues. And then sometimes we, as people of color, have just kind of nodded and went along with it when we don't really have diversity. We just finally, got a man of color as a police chief in Minneapolis. These are roles that should have, and I'm not saying that in tokenism, and I'm not saying that people should be elevated not because of their race versus their skill. But there are some really darn talented people in our communities, and you can't tell me that they haven't risen because someone held them back because of the color of their skin. So we don't have diversity in this city. We have diversity in so much as it makes the other people feel good. I might get a little angry on this issue.
Rightfully so, I think, though.
I actually have, because UMBS, one of the judges, wasn't able to make it to this chat, and I asked them their thoughts on this topic, and this is what they said. The lack of diversity has always been an issue, and the important takeaway is that BIPOC should always be a part of any discussion. They should not be taken or should not be treated as tokens, and their voices must be listened to and respected. White people need to be aware of their reactions and be willing to acknowledge the issues brought up by BIPOC people.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a true statement. There are many times, unfortunately, there are few of us um, that will, that stand up anyway and have the energy to actually speak and do things, and to be asked to always educate, especially when those will not educate themselves first, um, is a exhausting thing. Um, when somebody comes to me with a worry, or wants to better themselves or their group or something like that, I'm the type that watches. Your actions and your words speak a lot, and not just what you speak to me. Um, it should not be, just a person thing. Your actions should always be what they are towards anybody. Not just because I'm black, not because I'm trans, um, not because I am a man as opposed to a woman, um, not because I am gender nonconforming, um, or because I'm something that you don't understand. Um, that should not in any way change how you respect a person or a human. Um, and at the end of the day, that's something we all need to, sit with ourselves and realize when we are upset, or um, we have some sort of aversion towards somebody. um, is it because we're scared of something? It's because something that we are unable to do within ourselves. um, and then how do we express that? Because usually it comes off in hate, and violence, and that's what we're seeing towards black transgender women, transgender people, and even within the LGBT community, in years past and still. Um, these things are happening, and we are allowing them to happen. When they happen, we are not saying anything, and we are sitting and just watching. And that's something we need to stop doing, because yes, these are our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our mothers. They are the people that are around us.
Well, and I think too, people get hung up on where to start educating themselves first. Um, it's not as hard as people think. Google's a really good place to start. Um, I know it sounds really cliche, but seriously, go and ask Google your questions, and then start digging from there, because you'll be able to find books. Midwest, they have a book list. Take a look at it. It's worth it. Um, if you're, wanting just to better yourself or better something bigger than yourself, whatever it is, if you have questions, take a read, because it alleviates some of the whatever you want to call it. When you ask someone else a question, it's a lot of work, and not in a bad way. I feel like most of us here clearly are willing to sit down and talk with you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But also, we're not necessarily. You got to come with us with something a little bit more than the baseline. And I'm not saying come with something grandiose, but Google it first. If you don't find Google, then we'll talk.
I think that's the irony as people of color, is that we have reached the point that we can spot immediately if you've done any homework whatsoever. And I've rarely met a person of color who, if you were sincere and you're trying to be a good person and you ask a question and they can tell that you've done some homework, they may not give you the length of answer you want or whatever, because they're not supposed to be an encyclopedia
person, as a neurodivergent person. The way we are all different and we all live and experience things differently. But there is a way that you go about asking questions to learn about somebody or something that they deal with, go through, or that's in their life. There's that air of respect in way of stating things, whereas you're not invalidating their experience or what they've gone through because you don't understand it or you have not lived it and or never will be able to understand it. But you can still share that compassion.
And so how do you feel like this also could apply to the local leather and kink scene?
I said before, as a title holder for a community group, do some homework. It's very simple. Like Carrie said, like Ash has said, we're not your encyclopedias. We are here for answers. We also only have so many spoons in the day. Mindful of that. And I think with all of this, it's not that we're wanting to come out as better or higher ranking or anything like that, but just that very basic level of human decency, and being willing to learn if you don't know. Um, and that goes a long way. I mean, for me personally, to find out about trans stuff, I Googled it, I YouTubed it, I went and got books, um, went and talked to one trans person that I knew, and tried to phrase my questions as politely as I could. Um, and it's just go through those motions, and you can't just jump right to the thing that you want, because that's not how that works.
I'll throw this. This is something I've been thinking about, and I'll throw it also out to Cody and Ash and Ray. The one thing I worry about our local kink leather community is that in a lot of the perceived title role, title holders, event producers, whatever, we have a lot of people of color. And sometimes I've worried that it lets our kink leather community as a whole off the hook because of the individual successes and the individual strive to succeed, a difference in our individual lives, that somehow what we've done allows the community as a whole to say, oh, well, look how many people of color we roles. We're okay here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. When that's not the case. I've talked to too many people of color who don't come to events, don't come to things because individuals have used those same fears, stereotypes, misunderstandings, and looked at them, but then try to pass it off as, but I would never do that to Ash. I'd never do that to Cody or Carrie or Alex. You know, it's like, yeah, you may know my name, but at the end of the day, I'm still a part of these people. And you just allowed your fear to get in the way of maybe meeting a new Ray or a new Ash. So we do have work to do in our leather kink community to actually be diverse in the Twin Cities.
Well, and I think also too, adding on to that, it's great that you give someone a title, but make sure that you help them out along the way. You don't just give it to them and say, all right, off to your own devices. I mean, that goes for any title across the board, and even not a title. Us as people, it's you can't just say, here's your ticket, see you later. And that doesn't, that us in that same sense, we're not your ticket either, like you've already said.
Cody didn't mean me to you, Ash, okay? I just want to make that clear. He didn't mean
But I mean, you get what I'm saying. It's that tokenizing and that making, oh well, so and so did it, but that same that I would never. And being able to, when you do that, look at yourself. Because for me personally, I won't ever, if that happens, I won't ever say much. I will look at you and kind of smile and chuckle, but look at you a little funny. And
won't forget either.
Yeah, we watch.
I tuck it in the back, and I'll remember that for later when I see you later at the bar or wherever it is. It's okay. I remember. And it's that same thing. It's you know, people of color, they go into the store and they don't get greeted when they go into the store by the greeter, but they get their receipt checked on the way out. It's that same kind of mentality. And if we want our community to be as welcoming as they say it is, quit checking my receipt at the door and greet me when I come in.
Yeah, it's definitely that's respect. I'm another human being. I am just like you, and I do deserve what you have. I am in the position I'm in because I've worked for it, and I've done things. I sit and constantly ask myself, am I doing enough? Am I saying enough? Am I representing other people the way that I myself would want to be represented? I do the work, I do the readings, I do the sit downs and talks, and I sit and I listen. Um, I am not the less privileged person. I know this, and I look and watch and support. But knowing in the education, knowing that, heck, as a man, I have more privileges and things. The way that we interact with people that are gender nonconforming, women, and the stereotypes that we have in those ways. But educating and knowing about yourself and knowing your privileges, and things that you are able to control and move matter so much, because you can use these things to help those that don't have these things. Because all in all, the world that we want, everybody should be able to have the same things. But we do not live in this world. We never have as BIPOC individuals. Going into a hospital, with the same wounds as somebody else, I will always be treated less than. And this is something that needs to change. As far as our community and tokenizing and stuff for being in positions and stuff like that. Again, I fought for it, and I believe I'm in the positions because I earned it. The things that I say and I state, I say from my heart, and choose to put them in a way that when you listen to me, you can see your own life through my eyes. To show you that there are things like Cody said. We go into a store and not greeted. Instead, we're followed. I choose to wear a hat showing that I am a retired disabled veteran because this gives me a little bit more credibility. And that's something that I shouldn't have to do. Because you look and you see the color of my skin, the way that I dye my hair, the tattoos on me, the fun socks that I'm wearing, even though I'm a 36-year-old person or something, and you look at me funny because it's not that cut dry box that, you think everybody should fit into. That's not how we should judge somebody. To go a little bit further, with education of questions and stuff, also know who you're talking to. If I don't know who you are, we've met once or twice, don't come asking personal questions that, you don't need to ask. That's, not something you need to know unless you're in some type of, situation with a person. And if you do need to know those questions, then you need to get to know people. That's all I got.
All right. We did touch this on it a few times, but is there anything that we can specifically in our leather community do to improve on things, or is there things that we need to improve on that we don't necessarily talk about? Because I've that is kind of a problem in our community. Is there's a lot of not wanting to talk about certain things because it makes them uncomfortable. That kind of stuff.
So my tagline is show up, show out. We have so many groups within the leather community that we have here. And we have certain events where we all, come together and show things, but we're still very separate, even within these. If you want to, start learning about things, get to know things and stuff like that, we have groups for those things. Shameless plug: Twin Cities T-Rex, Twin Cities Sirens, Twin Cities Spectrum,
Also,
all on your diversity. But we sit and we watch where you're here, and notice when you do come. It's things like that that will start to help us grow. That will help us have community involvement and cohesion and stuff. It's when things like that that give you that comfortable level, that um, feeling that you belong, that you have a seat at this table, where you can start having those hard conversations, because even though we might not understand it or see, we are here to learn, and to support each other. But until things like that happen, it's a lot harder to have those conversations. Um, sitting here today, all these people on this video I know, I have sat down, I have talked with, or they have talked with me, um, said hi, sent a dad joke. Things like that to start a conversation are the things that matter, and the things that start helping. But until I see you, until you interact with me, those things aren't going to happen. I'm not going to bite off your head unless you come at me disrespectfully. Um, but I am here with a smile, as most are, and we'll have that, even if it's not talking about politics or something. Just having a conversation.
I mean, I think the showing up and showing out is important. I get that a lot of people don't have words to say things in conversations, but if you show up to those conversations that are being held, and even just listening, that says a lot. And then maybe by listening, you'll feel comfortable enough to then ask those hard questions, or even just those basic questions of how was your day? Like, I haven't talked to you before, but I want to get to know you, and here's a good starting point. But show up when people do events and things. Really makes a difference.
Yeah, so I'm just going to jump in here and say that on that, because I wasn't, my audio wasn't working in the first part of this. So I'm going to talk about the donations part again, because I feel like that's part of showing up, reaching out, doing something. So we are looking to raise money for Reclaim the Block. And I chose this organization to donate to, and their main focus is on police reform, and this was back in June, and since then they've been getting a lot of donations and such. So they have actually posted a super list of organizations that really, really need help and deserve, attention. Uh, I have that linked down in the description. So please check that out. Donate whatever you can. Everything helps. Every little bit helps. And then with that, I think just move on to some final thoughts before we wrap this up. So is there any kind of like closing comments or any sort of anything you want to talk about, issues or not, that we've been in the vein that we've been talking about?
So I just want to put out there and stuff. My inbox is open. If you see me, out and stuff whenever all this, COVID stuff ends and we can start doing more things, come and say hi. I'm not gonna bite. Trust me, I'm an introvert and a shy person, so I'm more shy or something than you are, to interact. But do say hi. Um, Understand that I see and I appreciate the things that are going on, and those that are doing stuff and learning and helping out and stuff. We see and you're appreciated. Um, but also, on the other hand, know that there are things that you can do, and say, people that you can write, and make more of a difference than I can. Um, and it's something where we need to work together, and you need to believe that people other than you matter. And I'm going to say that again: people other than you matter. Um, because without others, is there actually a point of you? Um, we can all support each other, and we can all shine bright. Show up and show out.
I think is everyone okay with that? I kind of want some of those pieces that you said, Ash, on a shirt. Because like I'm probably gonna go through this and edit out just a little clip of that and just kind of post it places because that was really well said. I love that. But yeah, any other comments, little tidbits, anything before I end this? It's looking like no's. All right, so thank you very much for joining us and talking about things that are not always the easiest thing to talk about. And yeah, enjoy your COVID lockdown. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. Yeah. All right, see you around.